9.01?
Please.
9.01 is early retirement incentive. I would ask for your approval for the early retirement incentive for Walnut Creek teacher Marianne Brothers.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? Do we need to discuss that? We discussed this at our executive session because it's personnel? Okay, that's what we just discussed, so. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
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 Any opposition? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you. I just have a couple things just to announce if I could real quick. Again, as we've said, we will have that special budget meeting on March 21st, Monday. That's here. All budget, all night. That's our theme.
All budget, all night. 7 to 11.
Two other things I just want to talk about briefly publicly. One is pretty well known, that we are not moving the 5th grades into the middle schools next year. Hopefully that message is out there, but I know there's still some questions in terms of, well, are we going to look at it again for the following year? Possibly, but it is definitely off the radar screen for next year. There'll be no move of any 5th grades into the middle schools. We are continuing to discuss the possibility of going to an earlier start time up at the high school. We announced this a while ago. And we have been having some ongoing discussion and dialogue, maybe looking to move. They start pretty early up there, maybe move it ahead 15 or 20 minutes.
You mean a later start?
A later start, I'm sorry, what did I say?
You said earlier.
When kids are more awake. How's that?
Hey, there's kids letting the air out of his tires outside. Please go stop them.
So we're looking at everything, and we've been talking with First Student because it does, the biggest obstacle to that are the PM bus routes is what we're finding, and we think it is going to involve a cost of some type, which of course, as you see tonight, I guess when we see and find out how much that's going to cost, I mean, we are going to bring it forward at some point and say, here's what the conclusion we came to, we're going to do it, we think we can do it, here's the cost, or we can't because it's not cost effective, but we're pretty close. I think maybe by April we'll be able to come forward with some kind of recommendation, but again, I just want to let everybody know that that has been a topic of discussion throughout the year.
Mr. Hall, are we going to be able to consolidate bus routes maybe by mixing the middle schools in with the high schools or something, if you're pushing back the time?
We're looking at several different options with the later high school start time. One option is, and they're working on a parameter that we're looking at a high school start time anywhere between 7:30 and 7:45 with an idea of no dismissal later for elementaries and 3:30. Everything's simple if you push everything back, but we don't want our elementary kids in school till 4:30. So with that in mind, giving them a time frame as a parameter, there are a couple alternatives that we are investigating. Number one is combining grade levels on buses where possible. Number two is also, and I spoke to Mr. Miotis today, looking at what's called over-rostering buses. We already over-roster buses for the parochial runs, and we're going to look at how we can maybe over-roster some buses so that we can, instead of adding buses to make the time frame work, actually use the same number of buses or less.
We give them a discount if they get bumped like on an airplane?
Well, that's always the risk you take with an over-rostered bus, is that you have a 72 passenger bus and you roster it at 90, and taking your average of 40% occupancy, that's how that works. So we are looking at several different alternatives.
One of the other things, the ones we're talking about busing, I was going to bring it up a little later, Erie County Tech is thinking of moving some of their start and stop times around as far for busing purposes. So I don't know if you've heard about that or had any conversation.
They're not still looking at the 3 time slots, are they? I think I'm going out there Friday. Friday we'll go out there, I think.
Yeah.
No, they had talked about that a while ago. I didn't know if that was continuing in the discussion or not.
I know they're in discussion, and
I haven't heard nothing.
Yeah,
Okay.
they want to get in, and just like you're talking, more continuity to some of the buses go out there, wait 4 hours and, turn around and all that stuff. So that's on the plate too, as long as you're discussing things.
Okay, thank you. Okay, that's it for me.
Very good. Don't forget Uber. Instead of for students, we could certainly use Uber. But Lou and I will both volunteer to drive. Only his car is newer than mine. Mine's not 10 years or newer, so I guess I'm out. It's a thought. Anything for the budget? Solicitors report, Mr. Smith.
11.01, in your place, you have a resolution that has been forwarded to the majority of the school districts in the Commonwealth from William Penn School District and a number of other school districts throughout the Commonwealth who have filed a lawsuit with Commonwealth Court asking the court to enforce the provision of the Constitution that requires the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania to provide for the maintenance and support and thorough and efficient system of public education to serve the needs of the Commonwealth and its students. Obviously, the failure of the Commonwealth and the governor to pass the budget is an issue, and these school districts have filed this lawsuit to assert that claim that the Commonwealth has failed in its constitutional obligations. So this resolution is just a resolution of support for those school districts, urging them on to continue with this lawsuit and requiring the Commonwealth aid to provide a fair and predictable formula for the education of your students, and also pass the budget, please. So I'll submit that to you for your consideration.
Will we experience any legal fees because of this?
No, you're not entering the lawsuit, it's just a letter of support.
Okay.
So we look for a motion in a second.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to jump aboard the resolution. Any further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposition? Motion carries.
The second matter, 11.02, is in regard to the Lecom Mill Creek Manor tax assessment and exemption appeal case. That case is ongoing. My firm has a conflict of interest. I cannot represent you in regard to that case. It is my recommendation that you hire the Elderkin Law Firm, and specifically David J. Rhodes, as your special counsel in regard to that case. So
Okay, looking for a motion
Make a motion.
and a second.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. President, let me reiterate the committee of the whole, Mr. Senate did not introduce this in the committee of the whole. I was going to, at the committee of the whole, if Mr. Senate introduced it for the board's approval or disapproval, to put it out to bid. Since this is, it's been recommended by the solicitor, and I was going to make a recommendation that we put an RFP out. And that's my, I would have to nay, whatever.
Now, Attorney Senate, that is a professional service, not necessary to bid it legally.
That's correct. Under the school code, as a professional service, you have no obligation to go out to bid to do it. And obviously, that's an option if you want to do it, but I think in light of the fact that this case is presently ongoing and the necessity to have your separate counsel enter his appearance to do that, I think that was your wish or desire, then I would suggest that we not go out to bid, because that's a fairly long process. There's things that have to be done to ensure that your interests are preserved in light of your request to have separate counsel. So I would suggest we not do that. Attorney Rhodes has experience in this area. He's familiar with similar cases of this nature. He has represented the Mill Creek School District in prior cases involving tax assessment appeals. So that's the basis for my recommendation to move forward.
Now, I would say when we vote on this, if we have 5 votes against it, then we can reconsider something on that. But I was the one who had brought up the fact that I felt that we needed some expertise on this. Attorney Senate presented us with 3 options to go with. And I just feel that it's very important. Lou, I know where you're coming from. I absolutely do. But I think in this case,